Hey there nation, welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and welcome to another edition of Mordheim-Mondays, where we showcase Mordheim Battle Reports every single Monday during our Fantasy Wargaming Week with our series Empire in Flames. And this is Mordheim Battle Report number 27. It is a breakthrough scenario that is fought between Sergeant Sigmar as well as myself. Sergeant Sigmar is bringing the Lords of Azure Skies, a Sisters of Sigmar warband, and I'm playing Something Wicked This Way Comes, my Carnival of Chaos warband. So we're going to play some background music real quick. As the music is playing, we'll show you pictures of both warbands as well as their rosters. If you want to see exactly what we're bringing for this battle report, go ahead and pause and take a look at your own leisure. So with that being said, let's get this battle report on a roll.
Crom, I've never prayed you before. I have no tongue for it. No one, not even you, will remember if we were good men or bad. Why we fought, or why we died. No. All that matters is that two stood against many. That's what's important. Balor pleases you, Crom. So grant me one request. Grant me revenge. And if you do not listen, then to hell with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying times here.
Alright, the scenario rules for this one is Breakthrough. Pretty much in this scenario, the Sisters of Sigmar are the attackers, and my warband, the Carnival of Chaos, are the defenders. The attacker has the basically the idea is that the attacker is trying to move at least two of their fighters within 2 inches of my territory, my deployment zone. Both of us have 8-inch deployment zones. If they get within 6 inches of the opposing table edge, then the attacker wins. If not, though, the defender wins, and that's pretty much how the scenario works out. For experience, fighters who manage to break through, for the attackers anyways, they earn 1 point of experience. Also, 1 point of experience for each hero and henchman who manages to survive the scenario, as well as 1 experience point for the winning warband leader, and also heroes earn 1 point of experience for each enemy fighter they manage to take out of action. So with the scenario rules over, let's go and talk about the battle plan as well as deployment. So here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the battlefield. As you can see, my friend Sergeant Sigmar is deployed on the near side of the table, while I'm deployed on the far side of the table. As for the battle plan on this one, the battle plan is pretty straightforward for this scenario. Pretty much the Sisters of Sigmar are going to try to cross the battlefield as quickly as possible to my deployment area, so I'm going to try to stop them as best I can. I do have a lot of shooting in my army for a Carnival Chaos army. That's because I was able to capture a bunch of crossbows from the very first scenario that I played for this campaign. So because I have a lot of crossbowmen throughout my area, so I got shooting pretty much on lockdown. Also, my Carnival Chaos is pretty good in close combat, so I decided to center my fighters, which were my 2 brutes as well as my 2 tainted ones, right in the center of the battlefield, so that way they can block any Sisters of Sigmar that try to go forward. At the same time, I plan on flanking on either side in a pincer attack with the left-hand side with Papa Malinge, my Carnival Master, as well as the demon elements of my warband hitting from the left. At the same time, my brethren, the Carnies, the 3 of them, are going to try to sweep from the right-hand side and catch them in a crossfire. Hopefully I can shoot them to pieces and then finish them off in close combat. And that's pretty much my battle plan is for this scenario. As for my friend Sergeant Sigmar, his plan is to keep his forces relatively together in one group and just kind of charge forward as like a gauntlet together, just kind of like a fisting forward and just try to smash through my lines. So with the battle plan over, let's go and talk about deployment real quick. Alright, so starting with the Lords of Azure Skies, the Sister of Sigmar. On the left-hand side, that is the Lord Relictor. She is a Sigmarite Patriarch. He's got heavy armor, shield, helmet. He's also got a sling. He's got a Sigmarite Warhammer. He's also got the leader ability as well as the healing hand spell. Up in the front is a Retributor. It's a Brother Superior, armed with heavy armor, helmet, great weapon, sling, as well as hardened injury, which means they do not suffer from the effects of fear. So continuing on, in the back left there, that is the Liberators, another Brother Superior, armed with heavy armor, shield, helmet, sling, as well as Sigmarite Warhammer. Right in front of them is the Liberator, another Brother Superior, armed with heavy armor, shield, helmet, sling, as well as a Sigmarite Warhammer. To the right-hand side, that is the Vanguard Hunter. He is a Novice who's armed with a hammer, sling, and buckler. And right next to the right-hand side, that is the Heraldor, who's an Augur, armed with steel whip, buckler, helmet, sling, as well as the Blessed Sight ability. And that pretty much makes a deployment for the Lords of Azure Skies. So moving across the table is the deployment for Something Wicked This Way Comes, which is my Carnival of Chaos warband. So in the top left-hand corner, I have Papa Malinge. He is my Carnival Master and leader of my warband. He's armed with a brace of pistols. He's got heavy armor. He's got the leader wizard abilities as well as warrior wizard ability, and he's also got demonic vigor for his spell. And right next to him in the front, we have Uwe, which is one of my Nurgling clowns. He's Nurgling. And then right next to him, we have Boiling Ruin and Festering Jawbreaker, which are my 2 plague bearers. And that makes up my deployment here on the left-hand side. Alright, so in the middle of my deployment area, I have both my Tainted Ones as well as my Brutes. On the left-hand side, that is Sepsimus the Plague-Sworn. He's a Tainted One. He's got a Halberd Crossbow, Bloated Foulness mutation. He's also got the Sprint ability. He's also got a Hardened Injury, which means he doesn't suffer from fear. Right next to him is, I believe that's Ebolith Blight. He's a Brute, armed with Great Weapon, Light Armor. He's got the Strongman ability as well as a Sprint. Right next to him is Morbid Blight, who's another Brute, armed with Great Weapon, Light Armor, as well as a Strongman ability. And on the right-hand side, we have Golgok the Butcher, who is a Tainted One. He's armed with a Halberd Crossbow, Bloated Foulness mutation, as well as a Sprint ability. And on the far right-hand side, I got the Carnies, which is my Brethren henchman group. I have Thrax the Reeking, Urg the Pestilent, and Shurlo the Riven. All three of those guys are armed with swords, crossbows, as well as shields. And that pretty much makes up my deployment for this one. So with deployment over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 1, and both Sergeant Sigmar and I roll off for our priority to see which of us will be going first. Alright, so that takes us directly to the top of turn number 1, and I managed to get the initiative on this one, so the Carnival of Chaos will be going first. We skip the recovery phase because there is no point in taking that, and we go directly to the movement phase. For the movement phase, I pretty much ran Papa Malinge, Uwe, Boiling Ruin, and Festering Jawbreaker. I ran them up for double their movement allowance to the left-hand side to the ruins, so that way I can get a good left-hand flank directly towards the Sisters of Sigmar. At the same time, I also march up forward Morbid Blight as well as Ebolith Blight. Those two guys run up forward, going forward. They're going forward 8 inches. I decided not to sprint Ebolith. I decided to have him keep up with Morbid Blight just because I didn't want him out by himself. I'm using the bell tower as kind of cover so that when I get shot by slings from the Sisters of Sigmar. At the same time, Golgok the Butcher as well as Sepsimus Plague-Sworn, my Tainted Ones, they stay exactly where they're located at because they're also packing crossbows, so they either move or shoot. I want them to shoot this turn. Same thing with Thrax the Reeking and Urg the Pestilent. I keep them where they're located at the top right-hand corner as well because I want them to shoot long distance with their crossbow. As for Shurlo the Riven, I do a double movement forward with him moving up forward, his double movement allowance, so that way he climbs the roof of the first ruin there on the right-hand side. He'll be able to shoot later on in subsequent rounds. And that pretty much makes up my movement phase for this one. So here's a close-up of Papa Malinge, as well as Boiling Ruin, Festering Jawbreaker, as well as Uwe, getting ready to assault on the left-hand flank through the ruins. And here comes a close-up of the Brothers Blythe, both Ebolith as well as Morbik, both of my strongmen using the bell tower as cover, so that way they can take on the Sisters of Sigmar. And here's a close-up of my two Tainted Ones, Golgok the Butcher as well as Sepsimus the Plague-Sworn, standing their ground, so that way they can shoot during the shooting phase with their crossbows. And finally, here's a close-up of the Carnies. We have Thrax the Reeking as well as Urg the Pestilent right behind that cover there on the right-hand side. And we have Shurlo the Riven climbing to the top of the very first ruin, so that way he can shoot later on in subsequent turns. So with the movement phase over with, we go directly to the shooting phase. And during the shooting phase is pretty much lackluster. I only managed to put a stun result directly onto the Vanguard Hunter, so he goes crashing face down into the dirt and currently bleeding out, but that was the most I was able to do. Most of my shots either failed to hit or failed to wound, so it was pretty much lackluster. We skip the combat phase because there's no combat this turn, and we go directly to the bottom of turn number 1 for the Sisters of Sigmar. So that takes us to the bottom of turn number 1 for the Sisters of Sigmar. This photo is taken at the recovery phase. As you can see in this photo, the Vanguard Hunter basically flips over with a knockdown result instead, just because he basically made a full recovery on that part. So with the recovery phase over with, we go directly to the movement phase. And during the movement phase, Sergeant Sigmar takes the offensive by charging the Retributor forward. He goes tearing across the battlefield directly into Morbid Blight, catching that guy directly into close combat. At the same time, the rest of his warband just kind of moves up forward their normal movement allowance. He doesn't actually run them at all. All he does is just move up the normal movement allowance. Sends the Lord Relic to the left-hand side to intercept Papa Malinge and his demon posse. At the same time, sending the rest of his fight around the bell tower to the right-hand side as well. And the reason why he doesn't run is because he wants to be able to get in the range so that way he can open fire with his slings directly to my fighters. So that part was kind of crazy. And at the same time, you can see the Vanguard Hunter just kind of laying down on the ground because he's currently stunned right now. So here's a close-up of the Liberator, the Heralder, as well as the Prosecutor moving up forward to protect the Vanguard Hunter as they give them range to open fire with their slings. And here's a close-up of the Retributor who charged directly into Ebolith Blight and catching him in close combat. And with that, takes directly to the shooting phase. Unfortunately for me, I suffered my very first loss. The Liberator, the Prosecutor, and the Heraldor, all three of those guys opened fire directly with their slings directly into Morbid Blight. So that part was kind of sad. In the end, it was the Liberator, who actually managed to get the injury on that one. Managed not only to wound Morbid Blight, but also managed to put him out of action as well. So because of that, Morbid Blight will need to roll up on the injury table to see exactly what happens to him. So first blood goes directly to the Sisters of Sigmar on that one. However, in the combat phase, though, vengeance is mine with Iblis Blight managing to stomp on the Retributor, managed to put that guy with a stun result onto the ground face first. So because that managed to stove his head in with my club, he goes crashing face first into the ground, which is a very bad spot to be in for this fighter because my turn is next, which means that if any one of my other fighters charge directly into him, he automatically goes out of action as well. So things are not looking very good right now for the Retributor. So the combat phase over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 2 for the Carnival of Chaos. So that takes us directly to the top of turn number 2 for the Carnival of Chaos, and this photo is taken after the move phase, and at this point I start taking the offensive and charging forward as well. So the first thing I do is I declare a charge with Iblis Blight. Iblis Blight decides to leave the Retributor alone and goes directly into the Liberator, charging that guy directly into close combat. At the same time, Sepsimus the Plaguesworn, I decided to charge him up for using his sprint ability. His sprint movement ability basically gives us his movement value times 3, which is really important because Sepsimus the Plaguesworn actually has a bloated foulness mutation, which means that while he does have +1 to his wounds and to his toughness, he loses 1 movement value, so he's only movement 3. So by using his sprint ability, I was able to travel the 9 inches needed to go directly into that fighter. So because of that, he goes directly into the Heraldor, catching him in close combat, which is absolutely fantastic as well. While that's occurring, I decided to activate Golgok the Butcher, which is my other tainted one. He goes charging directly into the Retributor and putting that guy out of action. So that part was absolutely fantastic, putting a coup de grace to him and just kind of finishing him off. Meanwhile, at the same time, I also declared charges with Boiling Ruin, Uwe, as well as Festering Jawbreaker. All 3 of those demons, my 2 Plague Bearers and my Nurgling, go directly into the Lord Relictor, catching him on the left-hand side. I also move up Papa Malenge up his normal middle allowance so that way he can shoot during the shooting phase. At the same time, my 3 brethren, the Carnies, I keep them posted right where they are so that way they can start shooting during the shooting phase as well. So here's a close-up of the move phase on the left-hand side. You can see Papa Malenge there in the back with Festering Jawbreaker, Boiling Ruin, and Uwe catching the Lord Relictor into the left-hand flank. So I'm really looking forward to that fight. At the same time, Sepsis the Plaguesworn goes directly into the Liberator with Iblis Blight going directly into the Heraldor. So I'm catching both those guys in close combat. And here's a close-up of Golgok the Butcher going directly into the Retributor and managed to finish that guy off with a coup de grace as well. And finally, here's a close-up of my Carnies standing their ground so that way they can open fire during the shooting phase with their crossbows. So with the move phase over, we go directly to the shooting phase. And in the shooting phase, Papa Malenge was able to cast the spell Demonic Vigor, which basically means that all Plague Bearers and Nurglings within 8 inches of him increase their demonic RSA from a 5 up to a 4 up into the beginning of the next turn, which is really going to be helpful, especially since I'm engaging in close combat with the Lord Relictor. Meanwhile, for the rest of the shooting phase, Papa Malenge opens up with his pistols directly into the Prosecutor, managed to put a stun result on that guy as well. So he goes crashing face to ground into the dirt, and he's currently bleeding out. At the same time, my 3 brethren from the Carnies, Thrax the Reeking, Urg the Pestilent, and Shirley the Riven open with their crossbows directly into the Vanguard Hunter, managed to put a stun result on him as well. So we were able to hit and wound, but we were just able to put him out of action for both those fighters. So that is kind of frustrating, but at the same time, though, over a third of the warband is currently down and bleeding, which is absolutely fantastic for me because that means my opponent has to take a Brout test here during his turn. So with the shooting phase over, we go directly to the combat phase. And during the combat phase, Golgok the Butcher had no problem finishing off the Retributor, putting him directly out of action. So because of that, the Retributor will need to roll up on the injury table to see exactly what happens to him at the end of the scenario, and at the same time earning a point of experience for Golgok the Butcher. At the same time, Festering Jawbreaker, one of my Plague Bearers, managed to put the Lord Relictor directly out of action as well. So because of that, the Lord Relictor goes crashing face down to the ground, and he is currently out of action, and he will also need to roll up on the serious injury table to see exactly what happens to him as well. Meanwhile, the combat over here on the top wasn't as great as all that. Sepsimus the Plaguesworn, unfortunately though, he suffers a stun result from the Liberator. The Liberator's basically swung his Sigmar Warhammer and smashed directly into his head. So because of that, he is stunned, which is a really precarious spot for him to be in. At the same time, however, although Iblis Blight, though, he managed to put the Heraldor directly out of action as well, managed to stomp him with his massive club for his great weapon, which is all kinds of fantastic as well. So with the combat phase over, we go directly to the bottom of the turn for the Sisters of Sigmar. And unfortunately for my friend Sergeant Sigmar, he fails his route test. He only has 1 fighter standing vertically, so because of that, the Sisters of Sigmar decide to run away and to vacate the battlefield. And there you have it with that, ladies and gentlemen. With the Sisters of Sigmar being routed, the end of the game brings a victory for the Carnival of Chaos. Managed to stop the Sisters of Sigmar from actually crossing the battlefield in this breakthrough scenario. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go directly to the post-game because this battle report is now officially over.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
Alright, first off, we start off with the Brothers of Sigmar from the Lords of Azure Sky for the Sisters of Sigmar. They suffered 3 injuries in this scenario. The Lord Relictor unfortunately suffered a blinding injury, which means they have -1 to his Ballista skill now, so now he's only Ballista skill 2. At the same time, though, the Retributor and the Heraldor, they both made full recoveries, no problem. For advancements, the Lord Relictor leveled up, earning +1 to his toughness, making him toughness 4. The Retributor also leveled up, earning +1 to his wounds, so now he's packing 2 wounds. And the Vanguard Hunter also leveled up as well, earning +1 to his leadership. During the exploration phase, they were able to find 2 pieces of treasure worth 55 gold pieces. At the same time, they also discovered Mordheim refugees, so the next time they do battle, they'll earn +1 for their exploration dice from when they do their exploration for the next turn. During the trading post, with their gold pieces, they required 2 Sigmarite sisters armed with hammers, slings, as well as bucklers, and those 2 fighters are called the Sisters of Sledge, which is their Sigmarite sister henchman group. Unfortunately for my buddy King Khalifa, though, he's got, King Khalifa, for Sergeant Sigmar, he's got 0 wins as well as 3 losses right now, and his current warband rating now is at 98 points. With that, we go directly to the Carnival of Chaos for Something Wicked This Way Comes. So for my injuries, I suffered 1 injury that was Morbid Blight. He actually makes a full recovery, so he is perfectly fine. For advancements, 3 members of my warband did advance and level up. Papa Melinge leveled up, earning +1 to his toughness. Golgok the Butcher also leveled up, earning the Sidestep ability, Step Aside ability, which means that he has a 5 ward save in close combat. And Sepsimus the Plaguesworn earns +1 to his toughness as well, making him toughness 5, which is all kinds of awesome. During the exploration phase, I managed to find 4 pieces of treasure worth 65 gold crowns, and at the same time I also discovered a wild stag. Luckily for me, I believe it was Urg the Pest that was able to nail that stag with a crossbow, so because of that, my warband will now count as 1 size smaller on our next exploration roll for our next scenario. At the trading post, with my gold pieces, I recruited 4 Nurglings into the clown, so now my little Nurgling henchman group has now got 5 Nurglings in there, and I took the 5 remaining gold pieces and I put it directly into the treasury. My new record now is at 2 wins as well as 1 loss, and my new warband rating now is at 140 points. So you have it, guys. That's going to wrap it up for Battle Report number 27 of our Empire in Flames campaign. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest, greatest news related to our channel. That's good for this one, you guys. We'll catch you guys next one. Peace out and stay classy.